Good afternoon. Welcome to a brand new day at We Believe Digital Studios. We are so glad you're joining us today for our news break show, Wednesdays and Fridays at 12 noon. We are coming to you from Jackson, Mississippi. In the heart of the deep south. It's 86 degrees. They say it may go up a couple more degrees, but clear skies. Looks like clear skies through the weekend. But you know this is Mississippi, and so that's subject to change. So we've got a lot of stories to share with you today, things that are going on. Hopefully some brand new stories. But maybe even some stories you heard a little bit about and we can add to just a little bit. So last night, the big news with the bipartisan debt ceiling, lifted the debt ceiling limit for Congress. This really had worldwide implications. It had passed easily in the House on Thursday, and on Wednesday, and on yesterday, it went right through the Senate with a vote of 63 to 36. And President Biden, of course, indicated he'll be signing it into law. That could be going on as we speak right now. And this will spare the U.S. a catastrophic default on its, ready for this one, $31.4 trillion debt. So, when you're the watchdog of the world, and spend the way we spend in our country, greedy as it is, that's what happens, $31.4 trillion in debt. But this averts, military folks not getting their pay, Social Security folks not getting their pay. It would have been as ugly as it can get. So that's some really good news that really affected things on a global level. The next global story over around the Suez Canal. They have a sandstorm going on around there that's surrounding the Suez Canal. All through Egypt, actually. Parts of Egypt been hit by clouds of dust and sand. The Suez Canal, one of the busiest waterways in the world, and it's a strange place. I've been through the Suez Canal numerous times, and it's kind of an eerie feeling. Going through. It's a very long canal. And they've had to close a couple of the ports adjacent to the Suez Canal due to this crazy sandstorm that's going on right now. So much of the shipping globally ends up coming through the Suez Canal, so it's a big deal, and hopefully they'll be able to remain open and not have to shut more down. A story I found, I believe it was on Reuters or BBC. The United Nations report has just come out talking about drug traffickers having found new ways to smuggle crystal meth. And there was some countries involved in this list here that I wanted to share with you. Crystal meth, known as ice, or yaba if you're taking the pills, coming out of Southeast Asia to very high-paying customers that are outside of Southeast Asia, Japan, South Korea, Australia, New Zealand. Now, if you'd have asked me about, I wouldn't have come up with those countries, They say criminal gangs are moving more and more drugs by sea to evade land patrols in Thailand and China, kind of making them harder to spot. And Myanmar is home to what many believe is the world's largest factories for meth production. Traffickers ship the drugs out through the borders of Laos, Cambodia, and Thailand, an area known as the Golden Triangle. And when we think about this drug trafficking, you really simmer it all down to three words: supply and demand. So, when people insist on getting this, they're willing to pay for it, and that's why it keeps coming our way. When we shift down to the U.S. news, looks like this last weekend, President Biden was out in the Air Force Academy graduation over the weekend. He took a fall. They had some sandbags up there on the dais to hold different things in place, and I guess his foot caught a corner of, he said later on, "No, I'm doing fine, I got sandbagged." But he was, he fell down, looked like he fell hard too, but he helped him back up, and he's moving on, looking like nothing happened just a minute later. At age 80, he's the nation's oldest serving president. So, taking a fall is never fun. I just took a fall earlier this week, just 50 feet away from this studio, and I wasn't paying attention. The room was dimly lit and kind of a warehouse room, and I ran into the end of a pallet jack and took a fall. Still tender, my ankle very tender. So, and I'm a long ways from 80. So, hopefully he'll be in good shape. A U.S. Air Force colonel say he misspoke when describing an experiment in which an AI, an artificial intelligence enabled drone, opted to attack its operator in order to complete its mission. So, those reports came out that, they programmed these drones, and somehow or another, this artificial intelligence drone perceived the operator of the drone itself as being an enemy target, and attacked or attempted to attack the operator. So much going on with AI. We hear some very positive things. We hear some scary things, security-related concerns. You hope all this has a happy ending. It seemed to me like we got so much intelligence in this world of ours, so many intelligent people, and they say we only use about 10% of our brain power as human beings. So, I'm always a little skeptical on this AI stuff. We'll just have to see what goes on. We'll try and keep you informed. Everybody remembers Tupac. Got some news about Tupac Shakur. He's going to receive a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. 26 years after his death, be receiving a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. The hip-hop star honored on the 7th will be honored in the prestigious Los Angeles Walkway on the 7th of June. I heard some numbers this morning on a MSNBC or CNN, one of the others. I think they said that the last album that he put out made $75 million. So probably much more than that overall in his short career. So U.S. prosecutors have obtained an audio tape. This will be a shock to you. An audio recording of Donald Trump speaking in which he acknowledges keeping a classified document after leaving the White House, and then he goes on to discuss the document. It is a highly classified document. With the subject matter, it's reported on 3 different platforms I looked at about a potential attack on Iran by the U.S. And so to be able to talking freely about that, having the document in your hand and going on and talking about it, and they caught all that on videotape. It looked like this former president may be facing some charges. I mean, if you or I were to do things like that, they would throw away the key. So have to keep an eye on that. A young man by the name of Dev Shah, 14 years old, from Largo, Florida, has won the Scripps 95th Annual Scripps National Spelling Bee. 14 years old. I watched an interview that they did with him. I think that was on CNN this morning. So much attention on this 14-year-old, but you know, he won a $50,000 prize. He said he think he's going to split that with all the members and his family. And the word that he had to spell that won him the championship, and I don't even know if I can pronounce it, but I'll try. It's semaphile. Semaphile. P-S-A-M-M-O-P-H-I-L-E. Semaphile. I had no idea what it was. And lo and behold, it's an organism that lives in sandy areas. Never knew that before, but correct spelling of that word with what you might call a tricky spelling, earned him the national title at 14 years old and a $50,000 prize. So way to go, Dev Shah from Largo, Florida. Seemed like we're not always hearing good news from Florida lately, so that's good to share. Got an amazing day today happening in North Carolina. Fort Bragg sheds its Confederate name today. It will be renamed Fort Liberty. So wow, so much happening. The military really finally stepping up. After the murder of George Floyd, and changing the names of these bases that bore the Confederate names. So Fort Bragg, gone as of today, still alive in many people's minds. But from here on out, officially referred to as Fort Liberty. Also, Fort Polk in Louisiana will be renamed on June 13th, just a short time away from here. And they're going to rename that Fort Johnson, is honoring a African-American Sergeant William Henry Johnson, was part of the very first African-American unit to see battle in World War I, and he was lauded for his heroism. So Fort Polk will become Fort Johnson. So there you have it. And, we head on down to the Mississippi news, and reminding everybody, have a lengthy story here about the Justice Department. But before we do that, we remind you that today is another day in our Republican-dominated state. A lot of people see Mississippi as a purple state, but in terms of the people that we elect to office, is predominantly red, predominantly Republican. And but the minimum $77 million TANF scandal, and not one Republican has raised a stir and said, look, we must have hearings. We must have hearings, fulfill our roles, our oversight roles, and hold hearings on this TANF scandal to get to the bottom of it. At least see what we can learn to not repeat the same mistakes again, or to operate the organizations involved more efficiently. But no one has done that. Not the governor, not the lieutenant governor, not the Speaker of the House, not the whips, none of the Republican leaders. Two different Democratic leaders have held hearings on the TANF scandal, but no Republican leaders. Don't you find that interesting? Today, just another day where we just want to let things die a quiet death and not hold people accountable and not do things that would help us improve and move Mississippi forward. It's a sad thing. So we're running up on the end of the first break. Again, if you have any questions or comments about We Believe Digital, We Believe Media, We Believe Digital Media, we're so glad to field your questions. You can always call us at 1-800-492-5186. We'll be happy to speak to you. get your questions answered. Maybe you could do a podcast on a regular thing. Maybe you want to have some advertisement for your products or services. We got you covered on all that stuff. African American owned, African American operated broadcast studio right here in the heart of the Deep South. Open for business. Love to hear from you. So we'll just dip out now for a couple commercials. We'll be right back.
Looking for the hottest content in the city of Jackson and surrounding areas? Check out WeBelieveDigital.com. Also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We Believe Digital Podcast is here for all your podcasting needs.
The Mississippi Link is an African American female-owned newspaper with a trusted voice that is respected throughout the city, state, and nation. Our motto, Keepers of the Knowledge for People Who Speak the Truth, since 1993. Significantly influences the thoughts, attitudes, and buying decisions of its readers. Call us at 601-368-8481 for your advertising needs. If you would like to receive a newspaper in the mail each week, our annual subscription is only $52 per year. That is only $1 per week for you to stay informed regarding many stories that you can only get in the Mississippi Link. Sign up today at themississippilink.com and click on Home Delivery.
And welcome back to We Believe Digital Media News Break Show. So glad you're with us. Chris Young here. Moving down into the Mississippi stories, a lot going on with the Justice Department in the state of Mississippi. And we know this. We know this already. Yesterday, though, or the day before yesterday, Assistant Attorney General Kristen Clarke talking about Mississippi school districts. She was here in the state talking to people, different groups of people, and you better sit down for this one. So there are still 32 school districts. Now, there's 82 counties in Mississippi. 32 school districts in Mississippi are still under a federal desegregation order. Now, how long has it been since Brown versus Board of Education? And still these school districts are being looked at and being assessed in an ongoing basis by the Department of Justice. Enforcing the open desegregation orders fit, Ms. Clarke says, into a broader body of civil rights work launched in Mississippi that is examining jails, police departments, and hate crimes in the state, in addition, to these schools. Referring to the U.S. Supreme Court decision that outlawed segregation of public schools across the country, she said the Justice Department is ensuring that school districts provide black students in Mississippi with equal access to education programs. Quote, in our ongoing efforts to fulfill the promise of Brown versus Board of Education, currently have 32 open cases with Mississippi school districts. And in each of those cases, we are working to ensure that these districts comply with desegregation orders from the court, meaning they're currently not complying. They may have complied in the past, but then fall back into non-compliance. That kind of stuff happens. People want to do a good deed and tighten things up and make it look good, but then when people stop paying attention, they drift back into their old behavior. But it looked like Assistant Attorney General Kristen Clarke staying on top of that on behalf of all black students in the state of Mississippi. The next topic here in Mississippi news, back to that old governor, the Governor Reeves. He did a good deed yesterday. We're gonna share that with you in a little bit, but it seemed like the people from Mississippi today really got on his nerves yesterday because they were asking him. He had made a campaign pledge or a campaign promise in 2018 And the welfare scandal was known about in that time. Wasn't fully broken the way it's broken now, but he had pledged that any monies that he had taken from people that were involved in this thing, he would isolate those monies and get rid of those monies. He would not use those monies. And so these reporters from Mississippi Today were trying to ask him about that. What about those campaign pledges that you got from, what was her name, Nancy New, and her son Zach New? Now, these people have pleaded guilty, but they gave money to the Tate Reeves campaign. And he did not appreciate it. He told them, he says, quote, "You don't get to follow around and ask the governor questions." That's what he went into a tirade about the Mississippi Today, which, is one of the preeminent news organizations in this state. And only 7 years old, but a really high quality product, refusing to answer the original question and then several follow-ups. So he really not, and that is the way. You don't get to follow him around, he said, and ask me questions. Really, we are elected by the people. It seemed like the First Amendment applies, and the press can, it's not like they're knocking on his bedroom door, but when he goes to event, the reporters gather around, try and get information. If he was, politically savvy, he would use that to his advantage. But anyway, so, yeah, God bless him. But, he's got a couple of challengers. Bob Higginbotham has been put back on the ballot. Brandon Presley is on the ballot. So he got a couple of challengers in this gubernatorial race in November. So got some more news from UMMC. UMMC is the largest employer in the state of Mississippi. And they shutting down their LGBTQ plus clinic, shutting it down, abruptly shutting it down, amid political pressure. So think that through, what that means as far as that. What is that political pressure saying? Is it embracing of people that have different lifestyles, that have different preferences, that just because they may live their life in a different way than some others? So now you're going to carve into how they get health care? Almost like you're saying that they're not human beings, or they're not residents just if they're gay, or trans or queer. It just, it's so bizarre. The co-director of the center that oversees the clinic said he feels, now this would be a medical doctor obviously, said he feels completely blindsided by the decision, which was made without him. So this was made at the executive level, and you know what happens, the people over there at the governor's office and other folks, they put pressure on those executives. They tell them, we keep giving you millions and millions of dollars a year, but every now and then we ask to get something back from that. So here's the shutdown of this LGBTQ plus clinic. Pay for play, right? So he worries about the ethics involved of suddenly closing a specialized clinic for a marginalized group of patients. So as if these patients don't have enough grief in their life, now they have to find other areas, jump through hoops to get health care. And it's just wrong. So we have to share that with you. I think I got to write that executive director a letter over there, because I bet you she's Christian, in charge of the largest employer in the state, and you want to start carving it. Who's it going to be next? If you like the color purple, you're going to get your health care slammed. Where does it end when you start doing this nonsense? and they had already shut down a relatively small clinic specifically related to youth with trans issues going on. They had already closed that down. That was just earlier this year. Now they closed the whole clinic down. Okay, skipping down into the Jackson and Hinds County. Well, you know, this story could bridge both categories there. The Mississippi Rapid Response Coalition, we are very close to right now. This is an amazing organization. Danielle Holmes does not play. She is all business. She is all equality. She is all justice. She is a force to be reckoned with, and have so much respect for her. They've gone, the Mississippi Rapid Response Coalition, gone to federal officials asking for more inclusion in the decision-making process around the Jackson water system moving forward. So the details were really not provided, but they're going on record as saying that something is amiss, and they might not be getting the best voice that they should be getting, and so they're going on record with the feds saying that they're asking for to be more involved in decision making. So that really tips you off to something is amiss here. We don't know exactly what it is. We want to find out. Another story, the NAACP has dismissed the HB 1020 claims against Governor Reeves. The suit is still pending. So his name has been taken away from it. So there's legal reasons for doing that. The suit is still being considered by District Court Judge Henry Wingate. It's still being reviewed. But for whatever reason, they've taken away their claims specifically against the governor, not against the state itself, but the governor, the person of the governor. And so we'll find out more about that. And just a brief reminder. I mean, so you created, they signed laws to create a city within a city, not going on anywhere else in Mississippi or anywhere else in the nation that we've been able to discover. So you're implanting a white-controlled and white-governed, if you will, city within our predominantly black city of Jackson, Mississippi. And they don't talk to the local peoples about that. They don't work with them on problem solving. They don't seek partnership. They seek dominance. They seek control. That's why we call it a takeover, a power grab. And U.S. District Court Judge Henry Wingate has that on his desk now, the NAACP lawsuit. They filed a lawsuit hours after the governor signed this onerous bill into law. So we'll keep you updated on that as it goes along. June 12th, coming up, what are we, the 2nd today? So 10 days from now will be the 60th anniversary of Medgar Evers being assassinated in his driveway in Jackson. A longtime field secretary for the NAACP, phenomenal man. And all month long this month, over at the two museums, they're going to have a dedicated exhibit to Medgar Evers and all his works and his death at the hands of a racist gunman. So June 12th, be 60 years since. Now, also over at the two museums, just FYI, because I think it's $12 now, but it's worth every bit of $12. But just so you know, a special exhibit on Juneteenth weekend, a special free admission on Juneteenth weekend. So keep that in mind. If you haven't been there, please go there. It's a phenomenal place. I've gone there a lot of times so far, and I'll be going back again on Juneteenth weekend. It's just so much to see. I don't know if anyone could take it in one sitting, one afternoon, or what have you. But please keep that in mind. All month long, Medgar Evers exhibit at the two museums, and then free admission on Juneteenth weekend. I want to tell you about a story I saw on the news last night, but I couldn't find it anywhere on the internet. The local broadcast stations today. And please forgive me if I get this name wrong, but it looks like Deandrick Gaines, a track and field star, now a national champion. She is a native of Port Gibson. Maybe that's why I saw it on the news broadcast last night, but I couldn't find it on the internet today. Actually called the governor's office and talked to some assistant over there, and it took him. I said, am I losing my mind, or did the governor honor yesterday a young black female athlete that had set a national record? And he said, no, that happened. I said, well, I was really taken by that, but I tried to look further into it today on our local broadcast stations and couldn't find it. And so he probably spent almost 15 minutes with me on the phone, and he finally found the name and the proper spelling of her name. So I was able to look it up, and of course it's all over the Port Gibson newspaper, news station, but it wasn't here. They showed a clip of him signing a proclamation honoring her. And then he gave the pen, the governor gave the pen that he signed, turned around and gave it to her dad, which was a really nice gesture, I thought. And Gaines, who competed in track and field for Hinds Community College, secured the first place position in the 200 meters. So NCAA championship. So she finished with an impressive time of 23.28 seconds in the 200 meters, best in the nation. She graduated from Adams County Christian School. Gaines had already earned multiple state titles, showcasing her exceptional athletic abilities, but here she is setting a national record in the 200 meters from Port Gibson, Mississippi. Deandrick Gaines. So if you want to look that up, there you go. That's all we have for you today at We Believe Digital Media Newsbreak show. Hope you have a terrific weekend out there. Looks like some fair skies. Enjoy some downtime. Hopefully, watch out for yourself. Don't be like me, tripping on a pallet jack in the back room. Stay safe out there. Keep your head on a swivel, and keep an eye out for your neighbor and your loved ones. Enjoy yourselves. We'll see you back next Wednesday.